Snark Squad, welcome back. Babes, it's Sunday evening and the wine. Flowing.
Oh, heavily flowing tonight.
Literally. The vibes. Cozy. And babes, we need to discuss this finale.
We really do.
Because honestly, as I was watching, I just kept spiraling over the harsh reality of 1874. Like,
Right.
securing your life savings meant trusting your wealth to a heavy iron box.
Yeah.
And, just hoping you didn't lose the tiny piece of paper with the combination.
Right, which is just wild to think about. Today, we're getting into how a frontier town handled this massive influx of gold, the actual, mechanical engineering of 19th century safes.
So fascinating.
The survival tactics you'd need against literal wolves, and honestly, the terrifying legal reality for widows on the run back then.
It is so dark, babes.
Oh.
But first, we need to say thank you.
Yes.
Because, babes, you continue to rock with us, and we love you for that.
We really do.
Also, apology moment.
Yeah, minor apology.
Because, babes, we are late with this one. We had a really busy week, but, babes, we are here. And I have to say, I am so incredibly grateful for everyone tuning in. You are the reason we do this.
Totally.
Sitting down with you for these Sunday recaps is genuinely my favorite part of the week.
Yeah.
It means everything.
It is much appreciated, honestly. We
Yeah.
survived the week, the wine is breathing, and we are, pushing the agenda forward. We need to give a cheers.
Yes, cheers.
To Julia, to
Yeah.
Lynn, and to Shreya, because, babes, you slid into the DMs, you left comments.
You really did.
You told us to cover this.
And, babes, we got you. You are part of the squad, and we are your messy fairy godparents.
Cheers. Now, before we unpack the frontier economy, we need to talk about something.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Because I was scrolling TikTok, and babes came across the most 1874 thing we have ever seen. Orange peel candles.
Yes. I am still spiraling over this. I watched you do it on FaceTime, and I was literally holding my breath the entire time.
Look, for anyone who hasn't seen this trend on their For You page, let me just explain the physics and the chaos. You take a spoon, right, and you gently peel the skin off an orange in 2 halves.
Which takes so much patience, by the way.
It does. But the critical part is keeping the core, that central white stringy bit, the pith, completely intact. You pour olive oil into the peel, letting it soak the core, and then you just light it.
And, babes, it worked. But it is an absolute fire hazard.
It is not a fire hazard.
You are sitting in a modern apartment playing Little House on the Prairie with citrus fruit. I was waiting for the olive oil to just combust and take out your entire living room.
Okay, the panic was completely unnecessary because the science is sound. The reason this works is actually this fascinating fluid dynamics thing. That white stringy core acts as a natural capillary tube. It draws the olive oil up just like a manufactured cotton wick.
I mean, it sounds fake, but okay.
It's not. And olive oil has a relatively high flash point around 410 degrees Fahrenheit. It won't easily combust on its own without a continuous heat source.
So it doesn't just explode.
No, which is why it was historically used in ancient Mediterranean oil lamps. The flame vaporizes the oil at the very tip of the wick, so you're burning the vapor, not the actual liquid pool.
Okay, fine. So it's scientifically sound. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, it was super atmospheric. Your apartment looked like a rustic apothecary.
Right. It smelled like a candlelit citrus orchard all afternoon. It was a vibe. Which leads us to a question. What other 1874-esque things would we try?
Oh, I have thought about this. And number one is definitely churning homemade butter.
Are you serious?
Yes. But, I want to do it outside, in a beautiful flowy dress, in the morning mist, just churning away.
You're completely romanticizing lactic acid fermentation. Do you even know how a dash churn actually works?
I mean, you just push the stick up and down, right?
Yeah. You are mechanically agitating cream to rupture the fat globule membranes. This allows the fat molecules to coagulate and separate from the buttermilk. Depending on the ambient temperature and the fat content, you could be plunging that wooden dasher up and down for literally hours. It is an intense triceps workout.
Exactly. I would get a cramp in my arm, I would cry, and I would only have enough butter for exactly 1 piece of toast. But the aesthetic. Unmatched.
You wouldn't last 10 minutes out there.
I would look great doing it, though. What about you?
For me, if I had to try something, it would definitely be washing my clothes on rocks by the river.
Wait, really? That sounds miserable.
No, think about the friction mechanics. You are using the abrasive surface of the stone and the hydraulic force of the river to physically beat the dirt and oils out of woven linen. It sounds like incredible stress relief. Just violently beating my laundry against a boulder to work out my modern-day frustrations.
Okay, wait. I actually low-key love that. My other one would be running the trading post. just standing behind a massive wooden counter, judging people's purchases, bartering flour for furs, and keeping my gold in a drawer.
We are definitely going to talk about that gold in a minute, but speaking of the whole vibe, current snack situation.
Yeah.
Carrots and hummus. Pause.
Yes.
Because, babes, it felt fitting for this finale.
We are sitting here drinking massive glasses of Cabernet and aggressively crunching on root vegetables. Like the delusion of us attempting to be healthy while consuming our body weight in wine and dissecting period dramas. Does it match the 1874 energy?
Honestly, yes. We are eating raw root vegetables. In 1874, fresh produce in the West was notoriously scarce, which is why scurvy was still a very real threat.
Scurvy.
Yeah, people relied heavily on root cellars storing carrots, potatoes, and turnips in cool, dark environments to prevent them from rotting through the winter. The hummus is our modern luxury, obviously, but the base snack is incredibly historically accurate.
Say, we are basically homesteading right now. I love that for us.
Yeah.
All right, top of your glasses. Let's get into the recap. Season 1, Episode 5, finally home. Where do we even begin? Let's start with the boarding house and what I am officially calling the table of chemistry.
Let's look at the actual economics of that setup first before we get into the chemistry. Rebecca is determined to get this boarding house open. She makes a deal with Tom. He plows her field and she gets the lumber she needs to finish the construction.
And babes, when he looked at her and said, "I'll plow your field," I screamed.
I knew you would.
The innuendo, the frontier romance of it all. I know you're going to tell me it was just farming, but you cannot deny the tension.
The tension was there, sure, but you are completely glossing over the grueling reality of agrarian labor. Do you know what breaking virgin sod in 1874 actually entailed?
Sweaty.
It wasn't a romantic gesture, it was brutal biomechanics. He would be using a moldboard plow, likely hitched to a team of draft animals. The prairie grass had root systems that went feet into the earth. The steel blade has to cut that dense, tangled mat of roots and physically turn the heavy soil over.
Okay, yeah, that sounds awful.
The caloric expenditure required for a human to guide that plow all day is staggering.
Okay, when you describe it like that, it sounds exhausting. But why barter? Why not just pay for the lumber?
Because hard currency, what they called specie-actual gold or silver coins, was incredibly scarce in the frontier West. The entire economy functioned on this intricate web of bartering and credit. Lumber itself was a highly valuable commodity.
Because of the mills, right?
Exactly. You needed a water-powered sawmill, which used a massive sash saw or a circular saw to process raw timber into usable planks. By offering his backbreaking labor to prepare her land for planting, Tom is providing immense future value in exchange for immediate building materials. It's a perfectly balanced 19th century contract.
I love how you make the economics sound just as intense as the romance. But speaking of romance, we have to talk about the love triangle that is fully heating up. Clayton, Olivia, and Alexander.
It's fascinating how the writers are handling this dynamic. Alexander comes into the trading post absolutely thrilled, telling Hattie that the government selected Olivia's sketches to attract settlers. Her art is going to be used in government offices from Halifax to Victoria.
Which is huge. He does all this PR work for her, brings her this massive career-making news, and what does Olivia do? She literally says, "I have to go tell Clayton," and runs off. Poor Alexander. He's becoming the ultimate third wheel.
He is, but let's pause and understand the geographic and political scale of what Alexander just announced. In 1874, Canada as a confederation was incredibly young. It was only formed in 1867, and British Columbia, where Victoria's only joined in 1871.
So it's basically a brand new country.
A brand new, fragile, massive nation. The distance from Halifax on the Atlantic to Victoria on the Pacific is over 3,500 miles.
And they didn't have airplanes. How does her art even get across the country?
Exactly. The Transcontinental Railway wasn't completed until 1885. So in 1874, communication and transportation relied on steamships, stagecoaches, and the telegraph system. It would take weeks, if not months, for official government materials to travel that distance. So for the central government to select a local artist's work to unify this disjointed frontier, it's not just a nice art prize. It is a massive political propaganda campaign.
Wow, I didn't even think about it like that.
Olivia is basically being contracted to visually define the Canadian West for the rest of the empire. She is shaping the national identity. And Alexander recognizes the gravity of this, which is why his support is so profound.
It makes it even more devastating that she runs straight to Clayton. But I understand why she did, because we need to talk about the woodworking scene. Clayton and Olivia are alone in the boarding house building this custom table together.
Ah, yes, the famous table scene.
Clayton is standing right behind her, guiding her hands over the wood. And he says, "Shave it real thin, never rush. It just takes a gentle touch. I am feral over this." The romance of a rugged blacksmith gently teaching a woman how to work with her hands. It was so intimate.
It was incredibly intimate, but let's look at the mechanics of what they were actually doing. He was likely teaching her how to use a smoothing plane, probably a metallic-bodied hand plane, which was just becoming widely available in the early 1870s thanks to Leonard Bailey's patents.
Right.
To shave it real thin, you have to adjust the blade, so it protrudes just fractions of a millimeter below the sole of the plane. You're slicing off wood fibers at a microscopic level to create a perfectly flat surface.
So when he says it takes a gentle touch, it's not just a flirty line. If you push too hard, you actually ruin the wood.
Exactly. If you dig the iron in too deeply or if you plane against the grain, you cause what carpenters call tear out, where you rip chunks of wood out instead of shaving them. It requires finesse, an understanding of the material's cellular structure, and steady guided pressure.
Which makes the metaphor even better. He is literally teaching her how to work with the grain, not against it. That is peak romance. And we have to drop some behind-the-scenes reality here, because the actor who plays Clayton did an interview this week.
Oh, I saw that.
He teased that Clayton is naturally a bit shy, which is why he's taking so long to make a move, but he confirmed the intense mutual connection. And the funniest part, he admitted he was terrified of the carriage horses on set.
Yeah, I read that. He said the horses were humongous and so powerful he couldn't steer them in the previous episode, and the real-life ranchers on set just looked at him and said, "Just pretend to be a cowboy. They won't know the difference."
I love that so much. He is out there serving ultimate rugged frontier fantasy, building tables with gentle touches, and behind the scenes, he's terrified of his own horse. But moving from the romance to the absolute mess of the frontier economy, we have to talk about the gold rush and the safe scandal.
This is where the history gets really wild. Hattie is running that trading post, and the gold rush is hitting hard. She is dealing with an influx of raw cash and gold dust. And she casually mentions that up until now, she's been keeping her valuables under her petticoats in the bottom drawer.
Just lifting up her skirts to make change. It's so chaotic. But Alexander, the voice of reason, convinces her that with more gold comes more criminals, so she needs a heavy-duty safe.
Which is historically accurate. In frontier towns, the local trading post or mercantile often acted as a proto-bank before Federal Reserve branches or formalized banks were established. Miners would bring in raw gold dust or nuggets.
Like literal pieces of gold.
Yeah, and the shopkeeper would have to assay it, weighing it on a highly sensitive scale to determine its value against manufactured goods. When you have that much concentrated wealth in a wooden building, a safe isn't a luxury, it's a necessity.
Which is smart, until Hattie literally forgets the combination. The instruction manual grows legs and skedaddles, as she says. She is spiraling. She cannot buy gold. She cannot do business. And what does she do? She and Alexander bring in a shady safecracker from the saloon, Pete.
The fact that they just went to the local saloon and asked for a criminal is peak 1874 problem solving. But this makes sense because the 1870s were the golden age of safecracking. The technology was in an arms race. Older safes used key locks, which thieves figured out how to pick, or worse, pack with gunpowder and blow open.
Oh my gosh.
So manufacturers shifted to the combination lock, popularized by inventors like Linus Yale Jr.
Wait, how does a safe in 1874 actually work? Was it like the dials we have on lockers today?
Very similar, yeah. The mechanism is a multi-wheel combination lock. It relies on a spindle connected to a drive cam. When you turn the dial right, you rotate the drive cam, which has a small drive pin. That pin catches a fly on the first internal wheel. Turn it enough times, and you pick up the next wheel and the next.
Okay, I'm following.
The goal is to align the gates, the notches, on all three wheels perfectly under a metal bar called the fence.
So when Pete gets the safe open, he knows how to manipulate those wheels by feel.
Exactly. He's listening for the clicks, feeling for the resistance when the drive pin engages the fly. And once he gets it open, the audacity of this man. He turns around and tries to extort Hattie for $1.
He literally looks at her and says he wants $1 just to open the safe in front of a Mountie.
Let's contextualize that dollar, though. In 1874, an average laborer might make between $1 and $2 for an entire 12-hour day of back-breaking physical work. A skilled carpenter might make $3. So Pete asking for $1 for 2 minutes of work spinning a dial is an astronomical hourly rate. It's highway robbery, but it's a premium you pay for specialized criminal knowledge.
But Hattie was not having it. And then the plot twist of the century. Olivia walks in, our queen. She reveals that she's the one who locked the safe because she memorized the combination, 3 right, 2 left, 1 right.
Which goes right back to the mechanics I just explained. The sequence of 3 right, 2 left, 1 right is the physical sequence of picking up those internal wheels. 3 turns right ensures all wheels are moving and leaves the deepest wheel in position.
Got it.
2 turns left leaves that back wheel alone, turning only the remaining 2 until the middle wheel is set. 1 turn right sets the front wheel. Once all gates align, the fence drops into the slot, which allows the locking bolt to retract.
So it's kind of like a relay race where each wheel hands off the baton to the next, but you have to reverse direction every time you hand it off. And Olivia just memorized it because Hattie left the paper with the code sitting right on the counter where anyone could read it.
It's brilliant, but it leads to this massive mother-daughter clash.
Yeah.
Hattie is terrified. She is so scared of losing Olivia, of Olivia living for the big city to be a famous artist now that her work is going to be in government offices. She doesn't understand Olivia's world.
I felt this in my soul. Olivia just wants her mom to see her, to validate her talent. Hattie is a practical mother who survived by hustling, but Olivia has the luxury to dream because her mother hustled. It's classic generational friction.
It's the quintessential story of the frontier's second generation. The first generation fights the wilderness to establish a foothold. The second generation builds culture and art upon that foundation. The tension comes from the first generation not recognizing that their survival tactics are no longer the only way to live.
And when they finally reconcile, and Hattie looks at her and says, "You are absolutely perfect the way you are. I was literally crying into my carrots. It was so beautiful." But we can't linger on the tears because we have to talk about the absolute chaos in the wilderness. The kids.
The wilderness plotline. The mission is simple. Sarah, Jenny, and Sam are sent into the woods to gather Douglas fir tree moss to stuff pillows for the boarding house boarders.
And I initially thought, why are we sleeping on tree bark? It sounds so itchy and lumpy. It just sounds like rustic poverty aesthetics.
It's not just an aesthetic, it's incredible pioneer bioengineering. What they call tree moss in the Pacific Northwest is almost certainly usnea, commonly known as old man's beard. It's not actually a moss, it's a fruticose lichen that hangs from the branches of conifers.
Okay, but why stuff a pillow with lichen? Is it just because it's abundant?
It's because it's chemical warfare against parasites. Usnea contains osnanic acid. This is a potent, naturally occurring antimicrobial and antifungal compound. In 1874, you didn't have hot water washing machines or synthetic mattresses. Bedding would get damp, moldy, and infested with lice or bed bugs.
Ugh, that is so gross.
It was a reality. Stuffing pillows and mattresses with usnea was an ingenious pioneer survival tactic. It's basically the 1874 equivalent of a silver-infused antimicrobial mattress topper. It kept the bedding sanitary.
That is incredible. See, I love when we get these historically accurate details that make total sense once you understand the science. But of course, the kids get distracted because Sam has gold fever. He wants to pan for gold in the river.
Right. And they run into Doyle, grumpy prospector Doyle, who surprisingly isn't a total villain. He actually gives Sam an old pan to use.
Which was sweet. But then Sam claims he knows a shortcut back. Never trust a man who says he knows a shortcut, even if that man is a child. He relies on dead reckoning instead of landmarks and gets them completely hopelessly lost and starts getting dark.
This is where we see the massive contrast in parenting styles. Back at the ranch, the adults realize the kids have been gone for hours. Peggy is the classic frontier mom. She is calm. She says they do this all the time. They know to come home before dark. Don't worry about it.
And Rebecca totally unravels. She panics. And I defend her. She is a single mom in a new, dangerous place.
The community online was definitely divided on Rebecca's reaction, but everyone unanimously loved Nash and Peggy. Nash has a broken leg. He can't ride a horse to search, but he refuses to sit there doing nothing. So he and Peggy team up to drive the wagon.
It was such a great partnership. And shout out to Doyle, again, who lent them a lantern for the search.
We stand Doyle. But out in the woods, it is pure survival mode. The kids hear literal wolves. And Sarah goes full main character. She commands the scene. She didn't let the younger kids panic. She remembers all the trauma survival lessons her mom taught her on the Oregon Trail.
Yes, our girl stepped up.
We need to remember that the Oregon Trail wasn't just a road trip. It was a grueling test of human endurance. Between 1840 and 1860, roughly 400,000 people made the journey. The mortality rate was notoriously high, mostly due to cholera, but also from exposure and accidents. So when Sarah brings up her mom's lessons, she's pulling from a very real, very harsh curriculum of survival.
She stops them from eating the poisonous mayberries. She makes them huddle for warmth. She figures out how to start a fire.
Which is no small feat. Without matches, which were scarce and prone to water damage, you relied on friction, or more likely flint and steel. Striking a high-carbon piece of steel against a hard stone to shave off microscopic oxidizing pieces of metal sparks into a char cloth or dry tinder. An 11-year-old mastering that under pressure is genuinely impressive.
And when the wolves get close, she tells them to clap and yell to scare them off. It was incredible. But wait, why does that work? Wouldn't yelling just attract the wolves?
Actually, no. Wolves are naturally neophobic, meaning they have a deep instinctual fear of new, unfamiliar things. While wolf populations in the 1870s were large and they were subject to massive extermination campaigns by ranchers, unprovoked attacks on humans were extremely rare.
Really? So they aren't just out to eat people?
Right. A group of humans making loud, unnatural, percussive noises like clapping and yelling triggers that neophobia. It breaks the predator-prey dynamic and makes the wolves retreat.
And making noise was the smartest thing they could do because that's exactly what alerts Tom and Rebecca to where they are, the rescue scene. They burst through the trees, the relief, the hot cocoa back at the ranch. It was everything. But the adrenaline dropping is what leads to the biggest moment of the episode. The big reveal. Rebecca's dark past.
We finally get the backstory. Earlier in the episode, Rebecca gets a letter at the general store. It's sent via general delivery to Benson Hills from a friend named Eleanor. Eleanor warns her that they are still looking for her, that they know she took the wagon trail west, but they don't know her true plans.
The suspense. So once the kids are found, Rebecca just breaks down. She confesses everything to Tom. She admits that she bought the Hope Valley boarding house site unseen specifically to hide from who? Her dead husband Jim's rich, powerful, toxic in-laws. They never approved of her, and they want to steal Sarah away.
This is where the historical reality is terrifying. We have to look at 19th century family law, specifically the legacy of coverture. Under coverture, a married woman's legal identity was effectively erased and absorbed by her husband.
So she just stops existing legally.
Pretty much. It's like your legal identity was put into escrow the moment you got married.
Wow, that is a fantastic analogy.
And if your husband died, his family held the keys to that escrow account, not you. In the 1870s, courts heavily favored patriarchal lineage and financial stability over maternal rights. If a wealthy set of grandparents petitioned a judge, claiming the widow lacked the financial means to provide an advantageous upbringing for the child, the court could easily grant them full guardianship.
They could literally just take her child because they had more money.
Absolutely. The mother would be declared legally unfit simply for being poor and widowed. The in-laws had the money to buy off the police, hire Pinkerton detectives, and manipulate the courts.
So her panic earlier in the woods, it wasn't just helicopter parenting. She wasn't just scared of wolves. She is literally a fugitive from a patriarchal legal system. She's been running for her life across the country to keep her child.
Precisely. She was facing the weaponization of 19th century family law. It grounds her entire character arc. And then Tom connects the dots.
We get the swoon moment of the century. He goes full bodyguard. He looks at her and says, if anyone comes here looking for you or Sarah, they're going to have to come through me first. I am fully feral over Tom's loyalty. Put it on a billboard.
Analytically speaking, it's a brilliant narrative turn. The power dynamic completely shifted. It went from him just being a neighborly guy offering to plow a field for lumber to this fierce, protective loyalty. It raises the stakes for the rest of the season.
It changes everything. Okay, we're going to pivot into our segments. Segment 1, most wholesome moment. The prompt is, what made you feel something?
I know exactly what you're going to pick.
For me, it is absolutely the moment the kids are found and brought back to the ranch for hot cocoa. There was no anger from the parents. None. There's no scolding, no wait until your father gets home nonsense. It is just pure, tearful relief. The way Nash looks at his son, even after Sam caused all that trouble and got them lost, it just made me feel so warm. It was pure family.
It was a solid parenting moment, but for me, the most wholesome moment actually goes to Alexander.
Really?
Yes. Think about it. He is actively losing the girl he likes to Clayton. He knows it, we know it, everyone knows it. But when he gets that telegram saying Olivia's artwork was selected by the government to span from Halifax to Victoria, He is genuinely, purely thrilled for her.
He really is.
He hypes her up. He doesn't make it about him. He doesn't get bitter or possessive. He is a true gentleman. And honestly, that level of unselfish support made me feel something.
That is incredibly valid. We love a supportive king, even if he is a third wheel. But now we have to get messy. Segment 2. Biggest scandal, Hope Valley version.
Right.
Because you know there was one. Call it out.
The scandalous behavior was rampant this week.
I am calling it out right now. The in-laws. The absolute audacity of Jim's parents, trying to use their massive wealth to manipulate the legal system and steal a child from her mother just because they didn't approve of her social standing. It's despicable.
It is the ultimate 19th century scandal, bribing the police, forcing a widow to flee across the country, exploiting coverture laws. It's giving high society villainy, and I am here for the drama it's going to cause when they inevitably show up in town. But I have an honorable mention for biggest scandal.
Tell me.
Pete the saloon safecracker. The cheek of this man. He is brought into a legitimate place of business, cracks a combination lock, and then tries to extort Hattie for a full $1 in front of Mountie, asking for a day's wages for 2 minutes of work. The hustle is almost respectable, but it's scandalous.
A whole $1. Okay, moving on to segment 3, main character energy. Who carried the finale? We have to debate this.
I will let you start your campaign, but I already know who won this episode.
I am campaigning for Sarah. She is an 11-year-old child, but she commanded the woods. She organized the huddle. She instituted the fire using flint and steel. She literally stared down wolves and fought them off with the power of neophobia. She brought the Oregon Trail survival skills to the frontier. She carried the emotional weight of that entire plotline.
Sarah earned her survival badge, no question. But the true main character energy, the person who carried this finale on her back, Olivia.
Make your case.
Think about her resume this week alone. She secures a massive government art commission that will be displayed across a 3,000-mile newly formed nation. She casually builds custom furniture with the hottest blacksmith in town, mastering the use of a metallic-bodied smoothing plane. And, to top it all off, she outsmarts every adult in Hope Valley by secretly memorizing the mechanical sequence of a multi-wheel safe code to protect her family's assets. She is the moment.
Okay, when you list it out like that, incorporating all the history and science we just talked about, Olivia was kind of iconic this week. She really said, I'm going to get the bag, get the man, and secure the vault. We have no choice but to agree. Which brings us to our final segment, segment 4. Would you live here? Be honest. Could you survive 1874 life?
I can't wait to hear this.
I am going to be so real with you. I fully believe I would thrive.
Oh, here we go. The delusion is setting in.
Hear me out. I would be wearing those beautiful flowy dresses. I would be out there churning butter, even if it took hours. I would have 2 handsome, respectful men pining over me while they build me a custom dining table. I would be the belle of the trading post.
I am shutting this down completely. Absolutely not.
Why are you crushing my dreams?
Because I live in reality. Let me remind you of a few facts from this very episode. First of all, 0 indoor plumbing. Second, you would be sleeping on a lumpy pillow stuffed with a snail lichen to ward off bedbugs and lice. Third, the economy is based on backbreaking agrarian labor, moldboard plows, and washing sand out of a river to find flakes of gold.
Okay, the lichen pillow is a slight negative.
And fourth, there is a constant threat of literal wolves, and if you get married and your husband dies, his parents can use coverture laws to take your children away. You would not survive the legal system or the wolves. You scream when you see a moth in the hallway.
Okay, valid points were made.
Yeah.
I might not survive the wolves or the patriarchy, but honestly, that is why we love this show. It gives us the cozy vibes with the chaotic reality check.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talked extensively about the physical and legal survival in 1874, the wolves, the combination safes, the agrarian labor, but consider the psychological toll of the mail system.
Right, what you mean?
Think about it. Rebecca's entire sense of safety was shattered by a single letter sent via general delivery. In an era before telephones or digital tracking where a letter took weeks or months to arrive, you were essentially living in the past.
Oh, wow.
If danger was coming for you, the warning arrived long after the threat was already in motion. Rebecca isn't just reacting to present danger. She's reacting to the terrifying realization that her present is already obsolete and the wolves, both literal and legal, could already be at her door. Think about what it means to never truly know if you're safe in real time.
That is haunting. I'm going to be thinking about that all week. Cozy vibes, orange candle chaos, carrot delusion, finale feelings. We want to hear from you. Would you try the orange candle hazard? Could you live in this era without indoor plumbing and with moss pillows?
Be honest with yourselves when you answer that.
And babes, what are you watching next? Because this mid-season finale left a hole in our hearts, and we need to know what to dive into next.
Rate, review, subscribe. It actually helps us out a lot.
Send your submissions. Send this to your coziest friend who needs a little messy frontier drama in their life right now.
Truly, thank you to the Snark Squad. Writing with us through this season has been the highlight of our week.
You are the best community on the internet. We love you so, so much. Thank you for the laughs, the theories, and for enabling our delusions.
Stay shady, stay iconic, and we'll see you on the Snark side.